Breaking news just into our newsroom. Part of the Toledo Jeep plant is shutting down for more than a month. Stellantis officials say the Toledo South will go down on Monday.
Stellantis investor meeting, CEO Carlos Tavares promised a massive cost-cutting effort. And it's looking as though it will mean considerable job loss.
The automotive meltdown has begun. Ram and Jeep just shut down 5 plants without warning. $3.7 billion in EV investment abandoned. For 1,500 workers, many with deep family ties to these assembly lines, discarded overnight. This wasn't restructuring. It was the dismantling of American manufacturing. Union leaders found out about the closures from leaked memos, not official notices. Jeep dealerships turned into ghost towns with no support. And a leaked call caught Stellantis executives laughing about how easy it was to blindside American workers. This is how corporate America turned loyalty into a weapon, and every factory job is now a target. Windsor went dark in 24 hours. 3 decades of production erased overnight. Stellantis destroyed 4,500 jobs with clinical precision. Midnight calls with Amsterdam shareholders. For AM orders to plant managers. Unions notified by automated voicemails. Workers told by text not to show up for shifts that no longer existed. The scale is staggering. Windsor had run 3 shifts since 1988, pumping $13.2 billion into the economy every year. 135,000 Chrysler Pacificas a year, most for American families, instantly orphaned. Stellantis had poured $3.7 billion into transforming Windsor into an EV hub for the Dodge Charger Daytona. 6 months of EV production wiped out overnight to send a message that reshapes the entire industry. This was no ordinary closure. It was a template for economic warfare. And it spread fast. The new tariffs didn't just hit imports. They crippled the supply chains that made North American auto manufacturing possible. Parts crossed the border 7 times on average before final assembly. Now that web is tearing apart. 900 more Stellantis workers in Michigan, Indiana, and Ohio were hit with sudden layoffs when parts stopped crossing the border. Decades of just-in-time manufacturing, perfecting deliveries down to the hour to avoid inventory costs, shattered overnight. Ford scrambled to measure the fallout. Its Oakville plant in Ontario idled, while its Essex engine plant kept building engines for U.S. vehicles. But now each engine crossing the border triggers new tariffs. GM faced the same mess. Its Ingersoll plant, retooled for the Chevy Equinox EV, was built for seamless trade. $2 billion invested in a border that no longer works. The ripple effect hit far beyond assembly lines. Truck drivers lost routes. Border delays spiked. Logistics planners saw years of expertise made obsolete in days. Ottawa scrambled. For Canada, 36% of all exports go to the U.S. Retaliation is risky. But surrender would invite more attacks. Prime Minister Mark Carney's team worked through the night. The stakes, 125,000 direct auto jobs and 400,000 more in the supply chain. Entire communities on the line. Carney's decision shaped his legacy. Retaliate or watch Canada's manufacturing base collapse. He chose to hit back. In Parliament, he announced 25% tariffs on U.S.-made vehicles entering Canada, effective immediately. But the counterpunch dug deeper, targeting American farm exports from politically sensitive states. Iowa corn, Wisconsin dairy, Montana beef. The math was simple. $8.7 billion in U.S. cars for $0.2 billion in agriculture, maximum political pressure. Currency markets reacted fast. The Canadian dollar climbed. WTO lawyers geared up. But the real fight would play out in plants and showrooms. The lifeline gambit. What if protection meant rewarding loyalty instead of punishing betrayal? While others retaliated, Carney's government quietly crafted a radical trade policy. Conditional protection. Companies that kept or expanded operations in Canada avoided counter tariffs. Those that cut Canadian jobs faced rising penalties. 72 hours after the retaliation threat, the Automotive Investment Protection Act flipped the script. Foreign automakers could keep tariff-free access if they boosted Canadian manufacturing. More jobs meant market advantages, Fewer jobs meant escalating costs. Stellantis executives met in crisis at Auburn Hills. Should they move Windsor assembly to the U.S. and face tariffs? Or double down on Canada for a competitive edge? The choice was clear for some. Honda's Alliston plant secured them tariff-free sales. BMW's new Canadian expansion gave them an edge over U.S.-only rivals. Toyota's Ontario plants, Cambridge and Woodstock, locked in access to Canadian buyers, while U.S.-built SUVs faced a 25% penalty. This wasn't just about cars, it was about survival. For Unifor, the trade war tested whether unions could stay relevant in an era of economic nationalism. An emergency convention in Toronto drew union leaders scrambling to protect jobs no policy had ever put so directly at risk. Cross-border solidarity cracked. UAW President Sean Fein faced pressure to back tariffs protecting U.S. jobs, while Canadian union jobs vanished. For Unifor, 4,500 Windsor assembly workers and another 12,000 in the supply chain faced layoffs. These were mortgages, tuition, and retirement funds at stake. Unifor had to back Canadian retaliation, but also push for a deal to protect jobs on both sides of the border. The investment chess game. Boardrooms turned into war rooms. Stellantis CEO Carlos Tavares weighed his biggest decision yet. Windsor Assembly wasn't just 4,500 jobs. It was North American market access. Closing it could save short-term costs, but lose the Canadian market forever. Relocating would take 18 months, cost $2 billion, and hand market share to competitors that stayed. Honda saw opportunity. Alliston, once marginal, was now a strategic prize. No tariffs, no 25% penalty. BMW's big bet on South Carolina now raised tough questions. Expand in Canada too, or risk losing Canadian buyers? Faces behind the numbers. Maria Santos, 22 years at Windsor Assembly, installing dashboards with the skill of someone whose mortgage depended on it. For her, the trade war wasn't abstract. It was her daughter's future. Her $47 an hour and pension made a stable life that now felt fragile. Her husband Miguel's job at Nemac seemed safer, until supply chain chaos hit. Communities on edge. Families like the Santoses built their lives on steady auto jobs, now at risk. If Stellantis left, Maria's pension could shrink. Older workers faced tough choices. Follow jobs south or lose hard-earned benefits. A town built by cars. Windsor wasn't just a factory town. It was the factory. The schools, shops, and diners depended on the lines running. Joe Mahalik's trucking company hauled parts across the border. New tariffs and delays now threatened his 18 drivers. Elena Kowalski's restaurant fed Windsor assembly shifts. A shutdown could close her doors for good. Borders becoming barriers. How does a border become a wall? One tariff at a time. For 15 years, Sarah Chun crossed daily from Windsor to Ford's Dearborn HQ. As easy as crossing a street. The trade war didn't just cost jobs. It strained ties that made the border feel invisible. Thousands relied on cross-border work. Families depended on paychecks from both sides. Now they faced choosing between work and home. Trust and teamwork between engineers and suppliers on both sides were fracturing. A generation in limbo. The real threat wasn't foreign rivals, but broken promises at home. Jordan McKinnon, 22, finished his auto apprenticeship, counting on a stable factory job like his dad's. Now, he wondered if that path still existed. Apprenticeships and college programs once meant guaranteed jobs. Now they felt like a gamble. His girlfriend, Ashley Rodriguez, was rethinking her business degree too. Would the job stay or shift south? Exit or reinvention? When does adapting become abandoning? Former CEO Carlos Tavares told Stellantis board that staying in Windsor meant spending $800 million to survive tariffs. Moving to the U.S. would cost $2.5 billion, but cut risk. Walking away would waste decades of investment and send a message. Squeeze a company too hard, and it leaves. Ford faced the same choice, reinvest in Oakville or move on. The trade war sped up change already coming. Electric vehicles, once a slow trend, became a lifeline. Canadian incentives and tariff shields made EV investment pay off. Stellantis saw an opening. Turn Windsor into an EV hub, tapping Canadian and U.S. subsidies to stay ahead. A new map. Tesla's local production model became the playbook. Local for local replaced sprawling global supply chains. The North American fight sent ripples worldwide. Europe feared German exports were next. China's BYD and NIO saw an opening while rivals scrambled. Mexico felt the squeeze too. Some plants moved south to dodge tariffs, others north to stay clear. Japanese automakers spread production to avoid getting caught. Windsor's second act. 6 months later, Windsor became a test case. One October morning, Maria Santos got the news. Stellantis would stay and go all in on EVs. Every worker needed 6 months of retraining. It would cost $47 million. A bet that Windsor could lead North America's EV push. Jobs would come back, but with new skills, new suppliers, new rules. The community moved fast. St. Clair College launched EV tech programs. The University of Windsor expanded engineering and computer science. The seamless border flow was gone. In its place, Windsor was building something new. Not just cars, but the future of transportation. The question now wasn't whether the industry would survive, but how far it could go. This was just the beginning. Hit that subscribe button and buckle up. Digital Garage has so much more in store.